Well, Ben, Nobes, Brady, thanks for joining us on the Members Q&A, brought to you by AIA Vitality. Now, Brady, I'm going to start with you. You've done a couple of media interviews over the last 12, 24 hours for members and fans out there that may not have heard those. Can you give us a bit of an update on the staff in the recruiting team and some of those changes?
Yeah, it's been a big couple of days for the recruiting team. We've had 3 resignations of late, 2 yesterday and 1 from a couple of weeks ago. So all for varying reasons. You know, we've got some staff that have got opportunities elsewhere, one within the AFL environment and one within a recruiting firm. So some good opportunities there for the staff. And yeah, we got 1 out of the blue yesterday. So yeah, it's obviously not great timing. There's never great timing for these types of things, but you know, we're still all systems go for next week, mid-season draft, and nothing's going to affect our preparations for that.
Thanks for that. Ben, we'll go to you now. So clearly the club is in the discussions in the media and publicly, and I'm sure our members and fans are well aware of that. Are you able to provide people out there, listeners and members, with a bit of an update of overall where the club's currently at?
Yes, Stace, seems we're getting quite a bit of attention lately, which is good and bad. Means that people care and people are passionate, and that we're not irrelevant, as some media would have us have you believe. Look, it's never great to be in the media for the wrong reasons. There's a lot of gossip that's being peddled, a lot of innuendo that gets peddled, and which is disappointing. We know where we're at inside the club. We're united, we're tight. The players are happy, the staff's happy. The board is united behind us, and they're backing management, and we're backing our coach. So that's really disappointing, and that sort of affects us all. But as a team, we are sticking together, and we've got our eyes firmly set on the long term. We went into this knowing that it was going to be tough, and it is tough. Would we like the margins to be less, the margins for losing to be less? Of course we would. But nothing we're seeing isn't anything that we expected. Rebuilds are slow, they take time, and you can't speed it up. We'd love the universe to move more quickly, but you can't hurry people's development. And we're trying to do it the right way, in the way that successful teams have done it in the past. We're replicating that. They all had their time at the bottom, we're having our time, we're taking our licks, but we are focused on the long term, and we're focused on the plan, and we know where we're going.
We're going to get the member questions underway now. We're going to bounce around a little bit because they've been quite varied. But Ben, again, we'll start with you. So Christian from Melbourne asks, how much impact does that external noise and the media realistically have on the club? And even with everyone aligned on the same vision, it's surely unrealistic to not have media criticism creep into some player and staff mindsets. So how do we combat that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's natural. We're humans and we've got feelings and emotions, so we get that. I think what's important for us as a leadership team is to make sure that we are obviously reinforcing the positives. We're keeping people's eyes focused on the big picture and what we're trying to do in terms of the big picture, both off-field and on-field. I mean, you've only got to look at some of the things that we've been able to achieve in a short period of time. Another profit last year. First time out of debt in 40 years, almost 40 years. We will produce another profit this year. We'll have cash reserves at North Melbourne this year. We've never had cash reserves at North Melbourne. A couple of months, wind the clock forward to August, September. Where we're sitting now is the renovated sort of kitchen lounge space for the staff and for the players. The rest of the building will be refurbed. It's an $8 million refurb, which has been largely funded by the Victorian government. No debt carried for the club. So that'll be done by December. You look at our membership base, which has been amazing. You know, 2 years ago when we walked into the joint, and David only a year and a half ago, we had 38,000 members. We sit here today, we're over 47,000 members. So that tells us that our membership base, our supporter base are getting on board. They understand the big picture, they understand the rebuild, they understand the long-term plan that we're taking, and they're getting on board and they're supporting us, which is fantastic. So we're thrilled about that. So we've talked about the on-field. The off-field is going exceptionally well. We've just got to keep pushing ahead.
Thanks, Nobes. We've got a couple of on-field questions for you. So we'll start with Cole from Brisbane. Yeah. Given the scope and depth of the current rebuild, is it possible to share with members some metrics that allow us to see areas of improvement?
Yeah, it is. Just before I go to Cole's question, I just want to pass on my thanks to the guys that have left. Work with them in the last 18 months, so to those three guys, I wish them well. To Cole's question, one of the areas that we work through is what we would call marginal gain. So we look for small incremental wins along the way. We have a number of measures internally that we chase on a weekly basis. A couple of examples, quarters one, halves one, etc. Those are the sort of things that we tend to look at, as well as some other key statistical measures that we've looked at that will continue to move us forward towards, being a really good team that can play consistent finals footy and win, lots of games. So we're tracking those internally. We chase those on a regular basis. It's the process before the outcome. And we're in front on our metrics from this time last year. So we are working on the defensive side of our game. As Ben said, those margins are way too big and we're trying to bring those scores significantly under 100 points. But a lot of the other measures are actually not in bad shape overall.
AIA Vitality is a great way to get to know your health better. You can access the program through your AIA health policy, and it has a whole range of science-backed tools and checks to help improve your health and well-being. The more you work on improving your health, like getting your step count up or tracking your sleep, the more you'll be rewarded with vouchers from popular retailers, including the Roo Shop, Uber Eats and Woolworths. Now it's time to make healthier choices that benefit your life, the club and your hip pocket. Head to aia.com.au/NMFC to learn more.
The next one for you, Nobes, is from Sasha from Melbourne. How do you plan on getting our young boys to step up and really control the game? And does it come down to getting consistent games under their belt, or are there any other variables to it?
Yeah, it's a good question, Sasha. It is games under their belt, but it's not only just getting a number of those games, it's giving them some responsibility. So, for example, on the weekend, we had a small portion of time where Jason went to Oliver. LDUs, took some time and went to Petrarca. So the opportunity for us to do that, we did that a bit last year with Will Phillips and Tom Powell. We did it with Jack Marnie early in the season. So it's about challenging those guys into roles early in their career. One, it gives them great exposure as to how the good teams and the good players go about their footy. They can then see the level that they need to get to, both from a skill acquisition perspective, from a fitness and a strength perspective. And then you can go to work with them in their review as to what they've actually learned from, the game craft. So they're the areas that we want our players to step up into that breach pretty quick. Sometimes it just takes a bit of time. But we do want to challenge them against the best because that's how you learn.
Brady, the mid-season draft is a week away, and Paul from South Australia asks, how many selections are we expecting to use in that mid-season draft?
So we've got one spot free at the moment with Miller Bergman's injury. So we've got another weekend of football still to go through. So there's a potential that maybe a second spot does open up, but we'll cross that bridge next week. So we're really excited about the opportunities that it presents. We've scouted the 19-year-olds across the country that are eligible. We've scouted the state leagues, and we've scouted the delisted players from previous clubs. So we've got a good handle of what it looks like. We have been looking a bit more in the mature space, as opposed to last year. We looked at more of the 19-year-olds, but we think we can probably fill a list need or two if we do have the two picks.
Another one on the draft, so Lindsay from Tasmania. What are the plans for the mid-season draft? Is it a ready-to-go player, forward or a back, or will we recruit another project player like Jacob Edwards?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, we've been looking a little bit more mature, and that's not to say we discount the 19-year-olds at all. We're certainly going to have a couple of those on our list as well. But in terms of being in the rebuild, we've obviously got a few spots we need to fill. We need some more maturity in certain parts of our playing list. So yeah, we've definitely been in that space, and you look at key defenders, you look at some small forwards, you look at a bit of rebound out of defence, a bit of outside run. That's where we're at as a club at the moment. We've got a few spots to fill, and there's a few players out there that might be able to fill those needs.
There's been a lot of discussion publicly around Jason Horne-Francis, and Megan from Melbourne has asked, she's keen to know when the club is re-signing Jason, or what the update in that space is currently.
Yeah, obviously we'd love to re-sign Jason at the right time. He's a terrific young player and a great acquisition to our footy club. He seems extremely happy at the club. He's got good mates. He's getting educated really well. He's playing some terrific footy. So at the right time, yeah, we'd love to be able to extend Jason.
Ben, we'll go back to you. Chris from Tasmania, he says, Ben, would you lobby the AFL to continue North Melbourne to play in Hobart, particularly if Tasmania don't have a team, as I believe the majority of Tasmania won't support a team as they already support someone from the mainland?
Chris, I would say to you that I think the Tasmanians would jump on. I mean, it's a bit like when the South Australian teams came in, Port Adelaide and Adelaide, and when Perth, West Coast and Freo came in. Everyone in those two markets had their VFL team. They also had their sample and waffle teams. But what they did is they jumped on pretty quickly to their local teams. And I think the same would happen in Tassie as well. They've done their homework, they've done their research, the task force I'm talking about now. And I think Tasmanians would jump on a local team. It's clearly what they want. Tasmanians want their own team. They don't want a relocated Melbourne team. They've proven that. We've seen that in the basketball space, how well they've gone. It's been fantastic. And you know, they had 5,000 people at the venue every time they played, and they've had an amazingly successful season, the first season. So I actually think, Chris, that Tasmanians locals would jump on a local team. Our position on that is, you know, we'll take a position once we see what the AFL comes to us with in terms of all the numbers and how it's going to play out with talent and all the rest of it. So our board will make a decision once they see all that information from the AFL. In the meantime, we've said to the Tasmanian government and to our sponsors, Spirit of Tasmania, we've got over 6,000 members down there in Tassie, of which I hope Chris is one of them. So we'd love to be there as long as we can, to continue to be in the community, to continue playing down there, and continuing to grow that market if and when the time comes that Tassie gets its own team.
We'll take a quick break to tell you about AIA, our life, health and wellbeing partner. When you join AIA Health, they'll not only be supporting you to lead a healthier, longer, better life, but they're also giving back to the club. You'll be protected with up to 70% back on extras, and you'll be rewarded for your small, healthy steps through AIA Vitality. Find out more at aia.com.au/NMFC. Brady,
we'll go back to you for one more question. Steve from Melbourne, what sort of off-season can North fans expect? A recruiting frenzy from a free agency and trade period point of view, or will it be straight to the draft? And second part to that question, will the club focus on key defenders, running half-backs and small forward options?
Yeah, so in terms of the off-season acquisitions, we want a blend of different types of players. Clearly we've been in a position where we've gone pretty hard at the draft for a fair few years in a row now. We still want to be able to bring in that top-end talent early in the draft order, and we'll continue to look at that this year. But we also need to look at some maturity. You know, we do have some guys over 30 now that are clearly going to finish up at some stage over the coming years, and we need to be able to be in a position where we've still got enough maturity on the field and some leadership, and some young blokes that may need some opportunities from other clubs that we might need that sort of position. So I touched on some of the list needs before. He's hit the nail on the head with some of those spots. We're clearly in that space with our scouting, and hope to attract a few players from other clubs that might be able to fill those needs.
Nobes, we'll go back to you now for a final couple of questions. Chris from Melbourne, even though there's losses at the moment, he's hopeful that our young group of players are going really well. His question is, who among that younger group, outside of the leaders, are showing an outspoken and confident leadership style with other players?
I think the one that comes to mind immediately is Luke Davies-Uniacke. I think LDU's done a terrific job internally about growing his leadership. He's in that emerging group. Cam Zurhaar's in that group, and I think Tristan Cherry is also in that group. So their form line's pretty good. You know, Tristan got back in last week. Credit to him for the way that he played, had a few weeks off, got his injury and recovery done really well. They're the guys that I think are starting to take shape to be encouraged to have more to say out on the field. I mean, we need them to. They meet as an emerging leadership group once a week as well. So yeah, there's internal responsibility and expectations that we're driving them with, and then that should correlate over into games. There's probably two others for me at the moment. Curtis Taylor and Flinny Perez, I think, are doing a really good job. They're sort of on the cusp of that emerging group, but certainly their understanding of learning the roles that they're actually playing as well. So if you look at the emerging group and then you have those guys that sort of intertwine into that group, we think we've got an exciting young group that's coming together and learning our game style really well.
One last question for today. It's from Mitchell from Victoria. It's for you, Nobes. We all love Ben Cunnington and want him to be 100% healthy before he returns. That's the most important thing. Can you give us an update or a rough idea of how he's going with training, when he could possibly return, and what role could he play?
Well, I was joking with him about playing on the wing, but using his speed and his run and carry. Look, Ben's back training. We haven't put a date on it for him. It's up to him to let us know when he feels like he's ready or when he's done enough training. So we're just taking it fairly slowly, I guess, at the moment. So he's back into leadership meetings, he's back in all the team meetings, which is a great sign. So I can't actually quantify that date for our members and our fans at this point in time, but it would be lovely and great for him to, to sort of play this year if there was a chance. But we'll just have to take our time and wait and see, really. That's the... Unfortunately, it's a bit of a standard of what we've got, but that's the honest truth where it's at. We haven't actually set a date. He's training, he's enjoying his training. He's not integrated into full training yet either, so he's still a fair way off. But he's enjoying being around the place, and it's been great to have him back out on the track. It's been awesome.
Well, Ben, Nobes, Brady, thank you very much for your time today on the Members Q&A. Thanks to AIA Vitality.